After 3 years together, she said, "I do not think you are husband material. I need someone who can truly elevate me in life. I deserve better than settling for something ordinary. Like you are ordinary, but I am upgrading. The real reason will shock you, Colton. You are not husband material. I need someone who can elevate me, someone who deserves better than settling." Those were the exact words my girlfriend of 3 years said to me 2 days ago. The engagement ring I bought for her is still sitting in my dresser drawer. What I discovered about why she really said this will shock you. I am a 29-year-old guy and I am still in disbelief as I write this. The woman I was planning to propose to next month completely destroyed our relationship with those words. Yesterday I found out the real reason behind her sudden change, and you are not going to believe what actually happened. Let me explain what she threw away. Avery is 27, and we have been together for 3 years. This was not just casual dating. We were building a real future together. We share an apartment and have a joint savings account with $12,000 saved up. Last Christmas her family welcomed me completely, with her mom actually calling me the son she never had. We have been house hunting every weekend for months, and even have names picked out for our future children. Harper if we have a daughter, Mason for a son. I work as an accountant, making $58,000 per year. Not wealthy, but stable with excellent benefits. She teaches elementary school and makes $45,000. Together we live comfortably and we're genuinely happy planning our life ahead. Her sister Reagan and I developed a real friendship over the years. When her mother needed surgery last month, I took time off work to drive Avery back and forth to the hospital every day. When I had food poisoning a few months back, Avery nursed me back to health and joked that it was practice for in sickness and in health. Here is what makes this situation so devastating. For the past 2 months, I have been secretly shopping for the perfect engagement ring. I found a beautiful one, 2-carat diamond at K Jewelers, and have been making payments on it. I even put down a deposit on a larger apartment downtown because she had been dropping hints about wanting more space for when we got married. I had the entire proposal planned out. It would happen at the lake, where we had our very first real date, timed perfectly for our anniversary next month. My best friend Jake has been helping me plan every detail. The night before Avery crushed me with those words, I was literally at his apartment practicing my proposal speech in front of his mirror. Everything seemed perfect in our relationship until about 3 weeks ago when I noticed something change in her behavior. She became extremely protective of her phone, taking it with her to the bathroom, keeping it face down during dinner, practically jumping out of her skin whenever it buzzed with a message. When I gently asked if everything was okay, she blamed stress from work. Her school district has been going through budget cuts and teacher layoffs, so her explanation made complete sense to me. Then last week, something strange happened. We were watching a movie where a character proposed to his girlfriend, and out of nowhere Avery said, "God, I hope he makes more than $40,000 a year." It felt like a punch to the stomach. But when I asked what she meant by that comment, she quickly backtracked and claimed she was just making a joke. 2 nights ago, everything fell apart. We were sitting at our kitchen table eating dinner and casually discussing our weekend plans when she blindsided me completely. "Colton, I need to be honest with you about something important. I do not think you are husband material. I need someone who can truly elevate me in life. I deserve better than settling for something ordinary. Like you are ordinary, but I am upgrading." I literally could not breathe for a moment. I asked her to repeat what she had just said because I was certain I must have misunderstood. Instead of taking it back, she made it even worse. All those dreams we have talked about for our future, those were just fantasies. Colton, I need to be with someone who can actually make those dreams become reality. You seem perfectly comfortable with mediocrity, but I am not willing to settle for that anymore. Just like that, 3 years of love commitment and shared dreams were completely destroyed. Since that conversation, I have been staying at Jake's place. I can barely force myself to eat anything, and I have not been able to sleep more than a couple hours at a time. Jake keeps telling me that something about this whole situation does not feel right. That people do not just wake up one morning and decide their partner is not good enough anymore after 3 years of happiness. But what if she is actually right about me? What if I really am just ordinary and unremarkable? What if 3 years of genuine love and serious future planning was not enough, because I am not ambitious enough, successful enough, or simply good enough for her? I feel completely lost right now. Can someone please help me understand what the hell just happened to my life? Update 1 Reddit. I owe you all an apology. Half of you called this in the comments and I was too devastated to see it. You guys are right. This was not about me at all. Jake dragged me back to the apartment Tuesday night to get my stuff. Avery was not there, but immediately I noticed things were different. Expensive flowers on the counter. Not grocery store roses. These were $80 arrangements. Found a receipt in the trash for Romano's, the fancy Italian place we always said was too expensive for Random Tuesday. But the smoking gun, her laptop was open on the couch with text messages visible. I know I should not have looked. But after what she put me through, I felt I deserved answers. The messages were with someone named Jay going back exactly 3 weeks. I could see romantic messages about not being able to stop thinking about each other. With him telling her that I had no idea what I was about to lose, and that she deserved so much better than our boring life. The most devastating one was him saying he was ready now, that he had gotten the promotion, the car, the house, and they could have everything they had talked about before. My blood turned to ice. Jake found me staring at the screen and immediately started investigating. 20 minutes of social media deep diving later, we identified Jay as Jackson Thorne, her ex from 4 years ago, the guy who broke her heart when he left town to focus on his career. Turns out Mr. Focus on Career is back with a vengeance. New BMW M3, posting Instagram photos of his executive lifestyle, designer suits, fancy dinners. His LinkedIn says sales director at a luxury car dealership. The timeline clicked into place like a horror movie 3 weeks ago when she got weird with her phone. That is when he reached out. All those comments about money and ambition. She was comparing me to him. Wednesday I confronted her. She tried denying it, then got defensive about privacy and me being controlling. Finally she cracked. Fine. Yes, Jackson reached out. We had coffee to catch up and I realized what I had been missing. He is making 6 figures now. Colton, 6 figures. He bought a house in Riverside Estates, drives a BMW, travels internationally for work. Our plans, settling. She exploded. I am 27. Colton, I cannot waste my prime years on someone who is satisfied with ordinary when I could have extraordinary. I asked if she cheated. She swore she did not physically, but admitted to being emotionally invested in rekindling what they had. Said she had been settling with me and owed it to herself to see if she could have the life she actually deserved. The conversation ended with her saying Jackson was everything I could never be: successful, ambitious, worldly. That she was sorry but could not pretend anymore that we were equally matched. I left that apartment feeling like I had been hit by a freight train, but also relieved. At least now I knew it was not about me being inadequate. It was about her ex manipulating her into believing fairy tales. Jake bought me a beer and said something that stuck. Brother, if she could throw away 3 years of real love for someone who already abandoned her once, she just saved you from a lifetime of not being enough for someone who does not deserve you. Still hurts. But at least I am not questioning my worth anymore. Update 2 Reddit. You are going to lose your minds when you hear what has been happening. The mask is starting to slip, and it is getting ugly. First, the good news about me. I channeled all this pain into self-improvement. Started hitting the gym hard with Jake. Down 15 pounds. And looking better than I have in years. Picked up freelance accounting clients and I am pulling in an extra $1,500 per month. Used my apartment deposit money to book a solo trip to Colorado. First vacation I had taken for myself in 3 years. But here is where it gets interesting. Reagan, Avery's sister, reached out last week. She was horrified by what happened and wanted to apologize for her sister's behavior. Apparently the whole family is shocked. They loved me and thought we were perfect together. Reagan dropped some bombs that made my jaw hit the floor. The coincidental grocery store meeting. Jackson had been stalking Avery's social media for months, learning our routine. He timed his move back to our city specifically to target her when she was happiest and most stable. This was not love. It was a calculated power play, the promotion he bragged about. Reagan works in corporate HR and has connections. She did some digging. Jackson did not get promoted. He got transferred here because he was failing at his previous location. Performance issues, missed quotas, customer complaints. The BMW M3, leased at $780 per month, more than my entire rent. The house in Riverside Estates? Reagan found the listing. It is a rental, not a purchase. All those expensive dinners and gifts, credit card debt. But wait, it gets better. Remember how he left to focus on his career 4 years ago? Lie, he left Avery for his manager's daughter. That relationship imploded 6 months ago when the manager discovered Jackson was embezzling client accounts for his side hustle. So this piece of garbage did not come back because he realized Avery was the one. He came back because his life fell apart and he needed someone to validate his ego. And he specifically chose her because seeing her happy and stable with me was a challenge to his narcissism. The manipulation was textbook, love bombing with expensive dates, all credit card debt, constantly bragging about his success, all fake, making subtle digs about my ordinary job and small dreams, projection of his own failures, playing on every insecurity Avery had ever mentioned years ago. Reagan says the cracks are already showing. Jackson has become super controlling, does not want Avery hanging out with friends. They are jealous of what we have, gets furious when she talks to male coworkers. I do not trust guys around my woman, keeps pressuring her to quit teaching. My girlfriend does not need to work. Last week he threw a tantrum because she bought herself a $40 dress without asking permission first. Mind you, this is the same guy who was supposedly offering her financial freedom. Part of me wants to feel bad for her. She got played by a professional manipulator, but then I remember her calling me mediocre and throwing away 3 years of genuine love. And that sympathy evaporates pretty quick. Reagan mentioned that Avery has been asking about me. Apparently she saw my Colorado vacation photos on social media. We are still friends on Instagram, and made some comment about how good I looked. When Reagan told her my freelance business was taking off, Avery went quiet. The best part, I am genuinely happier than I have been in months. This experience taught me my worth is not determined by someone else's ability to recognize it. I am not the same guy who was willing to settle for someone who saw me as settling. Update 3. 15 months later. Reddit. The universe has a sense of humor, and the karma gods have been working overtime. You need to hear how this all played out, because it is more satisfying than any movie ending. My life first, that freelance business I mentioned. It exploded. I now run my own accounting practice with 6 employees, and we are booked solid through next year. I bought a house in March. Nothing massive, but it is mine. 3 bedrooms. Nice yard. Perfect for the future I am building. The future I am building with Sinclair Hayes, 31, trauma surgeon at Regional Medical Center. She is brilliant, funny, independent, and she appreciates everything about me that Avery took for granted, where Avery was always looking over the fence for something better. Sinclair chose me because she genuinely values stability, loyalty, and real partnership. She makes $280K per year but loves that I pack her lunch and leave little notes in her scrubs pocket. She said yes, before I even finished asking. Now for the karma nuclear winter that destroyed Jackson and Avery. 6 months after they got together, Jackson's house of cards collapsed spectacularly. His company discovered he had been falsifying expense reports and using the corporate credit card for personal expenses, including all those expensive dates with Avery. We are talking $18K in fraud. He got fired immediately, and they threatened criminal charges unless he paid everything back. The BMW got repossessed 2 weeks later, had to break his lease, and move back in with his parents at age 33. But it gets worse. Word spread in the automotive sales industry about why he was fired. He is blacklisted from every decent dealership within 200 miles. Last I heard from Reagan, he is driving for DoorDash and working part-time at Target. As for Avery, once Jackson's money problems started, his true colors came out in full force. He became bitter, controlling, and verbally abusive, would berate her for spending any money, even on groceries. made her return Christmas gifts to her own family because they were too expensive. The final straw came when he started openly flirting with a 22-year-old coworker at Target. Avery caught them making out in the break room. When she confronted him, he told her she was getting old anyway, and he needed someone who still had potential. He dumped her via text message after manipulating her to destroy our relationship, isolating her from friends, emotionally abusing her for months. He discarded her like garbage for someone younger. The aftermath has been brutal for Avery. She had to get a second job waitressing at night to afford rent, lost most of her friends during the Jackson period because he convinced her they were toxic and jealous. Her self-esteem is completely shattered, and here is where it gets delicious. She has been desperately trying to contact me. Started with social media friend requests. 4 months ago, all declined. Then she somehow got my business number and left tearful voicemails about wanting to catch up, deleted without listening fully. When Sinclair and I got engaged, Avery found out through Reagan and sent me the most pathetic email I have ever received. Colton, I know I have no right to reach out after what I did, but I need you to know that leaving you was the biggest mistake of my life. I threw away gold for fool's pyrite. You were the best man I ever had, the most loyal, the most genuine. I let someone poison my mind against the most beautiful relationship I will ever have. I know I do not deserve forgiveness, but I pray someday we could find our way back to each other. I never stopped thinking about what we had. Please, just one conversation. I have learned my lesson. I know who I am now, and what real love looks like. It looked like you making me coffee every morning. You taking care of me when I was sick. You planning our future while I was too stupid to see how lucky I was. Please. I showed the email to Sinclair, who just laughed and said, well, she has got excellent taste. Too bad she figured it out about 2 years too late. I did not respond. What is the point? I am not the same person who would have taken her back just to avoid loneliness. I have self-respect now. The final nail in the coffin happened 3 weeks ago. Sinclair and I were grocery shopping Samey's store where Jackson coincidentally met Avery when we ran into him. He was in his red Target polo shirt, looking rough, gained weight, patchy beard, exhausted. The contrast was stark. I was in a tailored suit from a client meeting. Sinclair was in her scrubs looking absolutely stunning after a 14-hour surgery. We were clearly together and happy. Meanwhile, this is the guy who convinced Avery I was not successful enough. He recognized me immediately, and his face went white. Had the audacity to approach us and try to make small talk. Asked how I was doing. Mentioned he had heard through the grapevine about my business success. I kept it brief and polite, introduced Sinclair as my fiancée. When she casually mentioned she was a surgeon, the look on his face was priceless. This is the man who told Avery she deserved someone more ambitious than an accountant. Here I am, engaged to someone with more education, higher income, and more social status than he ever dreamed of having. As we walked away, Sinclair squeezed my hand and said, "So that is the guy who convinced your ex you were not good enough. Yikes. His loss is definitely my gain." Later I found out from Reagan that Avery was working at the same Target when this happened. Reagan said she went to the bathroom afterward and had a complete breakdown. 3 days later, Avery sent me another desperate message. "I saw you at Target. You looked happy. Really happy. Successful. Like the man I always knew you could become. I am so sorry I was not smart enough to see it when it mattered. I hope she knows how lucky she is." I did not respond to that either. The wedding is in 4 months. We are having it at the lake, the same place I had planned to propose to Avery years ago, but this time it means something completely different. This time it is with someone who chose me not because her backup plan failed, but because she sees my actual worth. Reagan reached out after the Target encounter to apologize for her sister. She said, "You were the best thing that ever happened to Avery, and she was too blind to see it. I hope Sinclair knows she won the lottery." She also mentioned Avery had hoped to get a wedding invitation. I told Reagan that bridge was burned to ash long ago. Some mistakes do not get second chances. The moral of this story? When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Avery showed me that my love, loyalty, and partnership were not valuable enough to keep when something shinier came along. But she also inadvertently showed me my own worth by forcing me to rebuild my life without her. I became the man I was always capable of being. I just needed to stop trying to be enough for someone who would never think I was. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you clears the path for the best thing that will ever happen to you. As for people who only recognize your value after watching someone else treasure it, they had their chance. They made their choice. They can live with the consequences. The future looks pretty amazing from here, edit. This blew up overnight. Thank you for all the awards and messages, for everyone asking. Yes, I will post wedding photos, with faces blurred when the time comes. Edit 2. Someone asked what happened to the engagement ring I had bought for Avery. I returned it, and put that money towards Sinclair's ring. But I designed something completely different for her. She is not Avery, and she deserved something chosen specifically for her. Edit 3. A few people are DMing that this sounds too perfect to be real. Trust me, I wish it were fiction. But sometimes real life writes better karma than Hollywood ever could. Edit 4. For those asking about Jackson's current situation, last Reagan heard, he is still at Target, still single, still living with his parents. Avery is working 2 jobs, and according to her sister, still sends me a thinking of you text every year on my birthday. I have her number blocked, but Reagan tells me about it. Some people never learn.